All right, good morning, everyone. Today we're still going with chapter 7, but we're doing lesson 9, which is graph patterns. And so I do want you to start by writing this down, just so you remember that in a coordinate plane, it's always x and then y. X is going to go on horizontal flat line, and y is going to go up. So what we're doing today is we're going to be comparing numbers and graphing them so that you can actually see them visually on a graph. Okay, so for now, that's all I want you to write down. All right, so then we're going to go over here. This is page 531. This is a really good lesson. I like how this looks. I like how it shows you really what you need to understand. So Trisha and her friends decided to rent bicycles to ride on their weekend trip. Bikes and More, which is a name of a store, charges $5 for each hour. An adventure bike charges $10 for each hour. We're going to find the cost of renting a bicycle from each store for 1, 2, 3, and 4 hours. So what I do when I'm comparing information, I want everything to be very clear. So I know that Bikes and More charges $5 for each hour that you ride a bike. So I'm going to make that pink. I know that Adventure Bike charges $10 for each hour. Okay, so now that I know 1 hour at Bikes and More is going to be $5, I can come down to my chart here. So let's move this up. So here's my chart that represents Bikes and More. Here's my chart that represents Adventure Bikes. So for now, we just focus on Bikes and More. For 1 hour, it's $5. See this? 1 hour, $5. That means for 2 hours, it's probably going to be double $10. So we know that it's adding $5 each hour. So then for 3 hours, we add $5 and it would be $15. And for 4 hours, we add $5 and that's 20 hours. Or $20, not 20 hours. 4 hours is $20. So we've completed Bikes and More. Now we're going to head over to Adventure Bike. We know for 1 hour, it's $10. For 2 hours, it's $20 because you just add 10. So for 3 hours, we would add another 10, so that's 30. And for 4 hours, we would add another 10, and that gives us 40. Okay? So now that we have this information, we make it into ordered pairs. And that's what they're doing down here. But I'm going to go ahead and switch it over here. Okay. So that we can see it a little more clearly, and you guys will have this in your notes. So please write this in your notes. So A was Adventure Bikes. I'm going to make this clear. Whoa. Should be Bikes and More. So this information is going to represent Bikes and More. This information will do Adventure Bikes. You don't need this A and B. I was just putting it so that I can see category A, category B, but you might want to get rid of that. Okay, so for 1 hour, every time you rent one bike for 1 hour, it's $5. So here's what you would put on your coordinate plane. You would go over to X1 and Y5. Then for 2 hours, it's $10. For 3 hours, it's $15. For 4 hours, it's $20. So let's do Adventure Bikes from the very beginning. We're putting this information in the table into a coordinate plane or into ordered pairs so we can get it on the coordinate plane. There you go. Okay, so for 1 hour of Adventure Bikes, it's $10. Then you put a comma in between this because you're making a list. So now for 2 hours, it's $20. Again, put a comma because it's a list. For 3 hours, it's $30, comma. 4 hours, $40. So this is where it gets interesting because we knew how to make coordinate planes, but you'd never have done it off of the table before. But I'm looking for a ruler because we're going to need one. Actually, we're not going to need a ruler. You can use a straight edge of any kind, so I'm just going to grab a piece of paper. Okay, so on the back of this paper, This is our graph that they've supplied us with. So we're going to take this information and transfer it over to the graph so that we can clearly see what the difference is. We can compare the two. So for Bikes and More, for sake so you guys can see this, I'm going to use my pen. I don't know if I would recommend you using your pen at first just in case you make a mistake. But in fact, I'll use a pencil first, then we'll go over it in pen. So for Bikes and More, it's 1, 5. So we have to go over to 1, and you see this time there's even halves. So that's, and though look up here, it's going by 5. So it's just like a regular graph. It can go by any number you want it to be. So 1, 5 is for Bikes and More. So we'll go 1, 5 and make our mark. And then we go 2, 10. So we go, remember X first, then Y. So 2, 10. And the next one is 3, 15. So you go over 3 and up to 15. And the next one is 4, 20. So we go to 4 and up to 20. Now this is where I said I don't want you to make a mistake. So now that we have that done, what you do is you look to see, use a straight edge and make sure that it works. And yeah, it's a nice straight line. If one of my numbers was way up here, then that wouldn't really work, right? So what I'm going to do now is just put a little, and it's important to put color of some kind so you can compare the two lines. So I'm going to do that, make it so that it's nice and straight. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a line that goes through the whole graph, like that. So this represents how much the bikes are at Bikes and More. Okay, so let's do Adventure Bike. This time I'll do it in pencil again, and then I'll go over it with green. So the Adventure Bike is green. So Adventure Bike, for every one bike, it's $10. For every 2 bikes, it's $20. For every 3 bikes, $30. And for every 4 bikes, it's $40. So again, take your straight edge and make sure those line up, which they do. Okay, so we'll go ahead and mark in the green. And then we'll go this way, so it's a little bit easier. Your line should go through the entire graph. Okay, so you can clearly see now that if you go to Adventure Bikes, which we could see this before, I'm sure, from our chart here, but when you look at this, you can clearly see if you go to Adventure Bikes, you're going to be paying a whole lot more money. Maybe the bikes are better quality, maybe, who knows. So what they want you now to do is say, what's the difference between each hour at each store? So for example, for 1 hour at Bikes and More, it's 5. Hey, it's twice as much when you go to Adventure Bikes. Let's see if it's twice as much here. So this is 10, and this one's 20. Well, 10 times 2 is definitely 20, so this is twice as much. Let's try this one. This is 15, and this is 30. Well, 15 times 2 is 30. So the bikes are, look, 20 and 40. So they are twice as much. So 2 times as much at Adventure Bikes. Okay, so you use these charts as a way of comparing costs, comparing numbers. And again, if they're ordered pairs, so they're kind of fun because you just like go X and Y, right? So make sure you get these notes down. Let us know if you need any help. There's probably going to be some that are kind of easy, so you're going to be like, wait, where's the hard part? So let us know.